Hey folks, Steve Munson here. Thanks for joining me on this video. I just want to take a couple of minutes and talk about a hunt that we just recently got back from up on the High Line of Montana. We had a great hunt. We ended up killing 11 coyotes, but it was extremely cold, so I wasn't able to film much on this hunt because of how cold it was. Most of the time it was well below zero with some pretty good winds and some pretty good wind chills, so it just made filming almost impossible. So I pretty much gave up on that, but I wanted to kind of tell you a few things that happened and then kind of tell you about an article that I was recently interviewed in that is out this month as well. My brother got a couple days head start on me on this hunt. I was going to join him later in the week. He got up there, and I think his first day out hunting he had pretty good weather, and he called up and killed 3 coyotes, and then his next day he killed 1. And then I showed up early. I left about 3 o'clock in the morning, drove 4 hours to get up there by sunrise, hoping to get a half a day in before the wind started blowing, but by the time I got about 60 miles from where he was camped, the wind was already blowing 30 miles an hour. So unfortunately we spent a day in the camper just napping and watching TV just to kill time. And then it kind of cleared off a little bit late in the afternoon, snowing, and winds kind of died down. We made a couple dry sets just before dark. Then the next morning we got up. I think it was Saturday morning. It was really nice out. The winds had calmed down to about 5 miles an hour. We ended up killing 5 coyotes on Saturday and then another one on Sunday. I was recently interviewed in an article in the NRA Hunters magazine for January 2020. And the name of the article is Changing the Rules for Coyotes. And I'll tell you, when it gets late in the season like this, you definitely have to do some different things. Now, we were hunting on public ground that gets quite a bit of pressure, especially in the month of December, because of a number of coyote derbies that are in the area. So these coyotes are fairly educated. It's not like they don't know what calling's all about. So we had to really throw quite a bit at them, some different scenarios. I always talk about building a scenario on a coyote's head and mess with them enough that they finally just can't take it and they have to come. A lot of times I think they show up out of curiosity just because they just can't take it anymore. They have to come and see what's going on. And that happened quite a few times on this hunt. Most of the coyotes didn't show up till about the 30-minute mark, so this time of the year, January, is a really hard time to call in coyotes because of being educated. You just have to take more time and sit on a set until they show up, and you just got to do something different than what everybody else is doing. And that's one thing I've learned over the years, is just to switch things up, do things differently so that these coyotes have to wonder, is that really a coyote over there? Is that really something being eaten over there? Or is that just somebody else sitting over there with an e-collar? And so we had pretty good success this hunt. We didn't get every coyote that we saw. We saw a lot of coyotes that we just couldn't call in when we were sitting down on a set, but every coyote that we called in, we killed. I'm going to roll just a little bit of video that I took while we were up there, just to kind of give you an idea how cold it was. We'd get this cold blast of air every time we'd open the door. I mean, it was cold out. We had a lot of trouble with our heaters. It's the first time in all the years we've been out doing this that we couldn't keep heaters running. It finally was going to warm up enough where I felt like I could pull the camera out and try to do some filming. We had an absolutely gorgeous sunrise this morning, but it was still cold enough I was having trouble with my camera wanting to focus right. But we sat on this set. We actually called one up, and it was clear to the left, and I couldn't get it on film and stand shot, and hit that one. And that was the one coyote that we weren't able to recover. But anyway, I'll show you here in just a second some of the country we were hunting. We hunt a lot of different type, but a lot of open rolling hills. And these coyotes love to hang out in these draws. Especially early in the morning, you can catch them out in some of this more open stuff. A lot of the stuff we were hunting was a lot deeper draws, but they really like this kind of country. It's unbelievable how these coyotes can survive and actually thrive in this kind of country with the environment out here that Mother Nature throws at them. We had a few minutes where the sun finally poked out from behind the clouds, so we thought we'd get a quick video, but the wind was blowing pretty hard and the audio got pretty messed up here. So we had a great hunt. We really did. We're used to this cold sub-zero hunting. You just have to dress really warm and be able to sit on a stand for a half an hour. And if you can do it, it can be a lot of fun. The day that we shot 5 coyotes, we had a couple interesting sets. We shot 2 doubles and a single that day. The first double that we shot, I sat down with my brother and we opened up with a female howl, and I'd say within about 2 minutes we had a coyote show up right in front of us, and he was probably only about 100 yards, and Stan shot that one. And then I went into some distress about 5 minutes after that and did some other things. And about, I'd say 15 minutes after that, we had another one show up about 150 yards in front of us, and we shot it. And we sat there for maybe another 10 minutes. And in hindsight, I would have sat there probably another 15, 20 minutes, but I just assumed that we shot the pair that was in that area. But when we went to pick them up and drag them back to the truck, it ended up being 2 male coyotes. So they obviously came to that female howl to check out a new female that was in their area. I'm sure they're breeding. If not breeding, they're getting pretty close. Had we sat there a little longer, we may have called in another female or 2, and maybe we could have got a triple. It's hard to say, but probably a pretty good chance of that. So that was kind of the way that one worked out. And then our last one was pretty interesting, the last set of the day. We had about 20 minutes before dark, well, maybe about half hour before dark. And we sat down and I kind of went through my normal scenario, started it out, and about 10 minutes into it, about 100 yards in front of us, we had a big draw down in front of us, and on the other side was a big knoll. And a coyote showed up on that knoll and just went into a challenge howl, challenging the sounds that I'd been making. So I went back and forth with that coyote a few times with some challenge howls and a bunch of different other vocals, and it was just kind of fun. We sat there for about 2 minutes doing that, and I actually couldn't pinpoint the coyote. I knew he was right there, but I was concentrating more on my calling and stuff, and so I was trying to keep him vocal enough that my brother could see him and find him and get him shot. And he had seen him fairly early on, but he was just kind of letting it all play out to see what happened. So that was a lot of fun. You don't get to do that close very often. And so he killed that coyote. And then I went into pup distress, and probably within a minute we saw another one coming up the bottom of the draw about a quarter mile away. And that one just charged right up the draw and got within about 200 yards and stopped. And it was plenty close enough, but for whatever reason, it was kind of a down, kind of straight down shot, and Stan missed, and she took off and went over the hill and out into the flat. And so I went into some other vocals and ended up getting that coyote to come back. And she got on the hill, and then she started doing her warning bark. I pulled my mouth call out, and I just started mimicking everything that she was throwing at me. I just kept throwing it right back in her face. And my point for doing that was I didn't think I was going to get her any closer, but I needed Stan to be able to pinpoint where she was at, because by this time it was almost dark. And so she kept up and I kept up long enough that he was able to find her in his scope and get her shot. She was about 350 yards out, and all I could see was her head and the top of her chest, and he was able to kill her. So that was a coyote that we'd shot at and missed, and it took off, and I was able to call that coyote back, and we killed it. So that was kind of a fun set. That ended up being the male and female on that set. But you know, you just run into all kinds of situations out there, and the more you're out there and the more you call, the better you get. the more you learn. And over the last couple of years, I've really learned a lot more about some of the vocalization, especially when it gets later in the year, and you really want to tick off some of these coyotes. And sometimes that's the only way you can get them to come in, is if you make them really believe that there's another coyote in their territory. Well, thank you for watching this video. I hope you got a little something out of it, maybe learned a little new trick from the little chat. It was more of a chat than it was just a hunting video, but I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about the hunt that we just got off of and our success, and then as well as just kind of let you know about the American Hunter article that I was able to contribute to, and I thank Mark Kaiser for allowing me to do that. And if you get a chance, go look at that article, read it. There's some really good information in there that you can learn on how to call these tough coyotes when it gets later in the year. I appreciate all you supporting my channel, and I really appreciate all the new subscribers I've gotten lately. And I will continue to try to get more content out as soon as I can.